Greetings to all and welcome to the Seattle Law of One podcast. Today's episode is about spiritual democracy. Spiritual democracy is a term that the entity known as Quo has used more than a few times to indicate that all souls and all acts of service are exactly equal in time-space or the metaphysical world, in spite of any appearances to the contrary in space-time or the physical world as we know it. What does all this mean and how can it help us in our daily lives? Let's find out. My name is Jonathan Tong and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found on the list of study groups at the LNL research page shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group and we do meet on Zoom twice a week, Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays from 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our study group. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome. Just contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week to let you know what we're talking about that week, as well as the Zoom link. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of previous podcast episodes, as well as recordings of Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty, Austin Bridges, Gary Bean, and Tricia Bean from the LNL Research Channeling team. Just go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you would like to get notifications when we upload new videos, and contact us at seattlelawofone@gmail.com if you would like to sit in on any of our Q&A sessions. As mentioned, today's episode is about spiritual democracy. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Panelists, let our viewers know who you are and where you're calling from, starting with Yasi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yasi. I'm calling from Houston, Texas, and I'm excited about this subject matter. I feel like it's a pretty relevant one in general, and especially these days. So can't wait.
So great to have you here, Yasi. Thank you for making time. And Daniel?
Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm calling from Berlin, Germany, and I'm very happy to be here once again. Thank you, Jonathan.
We are very happy to have you again. Thank you for joining us from across the pond, as it were. Did want to remind our viewers that none of us here are experts or authorities on the law of one. We are just normal people like you, talking about things of spiritual nature that seem important to us. Anything we say could be wrong. You're welcome to disagree with anything that any of us say. Otherwise, if you are already familiar with the law of one and the entity known as Quo, you might want to skip ahead to the chapter on all souls equal. Otherwise, for those who are new to the law of one, you can think of it as a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one and that one thing is love. Pretty much everything else we say today could be considered some variation of that statement. It is worth noting that all of the reading passages we're looking at today came to us through a process known as channeling. You can think of channeling as a form of telepathic communication between humans and other entities such as angelic beings, extraterrestrial beings, inner planes beings, spirits of deceased, higher self, etc. A channel basically serves as a mouthpiece for other entities to speak through, and in this case, those entities appear to be of extraterrestrial origin. There are two types of channeling that have been developed by our friends at LNL Research. Trance channeling is when the channel is in a trance state or subconscious or unconscious as if asleep, meaning they are not aware of what words are coming out of their mouth. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Ra back in the early 1980s. Conscious channeling is when the channel is in a conscious but very deep meditative state, meaning they are only somewhat aware of what words they are saying when they are saying them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Quo, starting in the mid-80s up to present day. So who is Quo? You can think of Quo as a group entity made up of three social memory complexes: Ra at 6th density, Latui at 5th density, and Hatan at 4th density. You can think of the social memory complex as a planetary consciousness. It would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind or one group consciousness. You can think of densities or dimensions as different levels of consciousness or different levels of reality, since those two things are very closely related. Imagine, if you will, that the elements of earth, fire, water, and air have some form of consciousness, as many indigenous peoples have long said they do. We call that first density. You can think of second density as the level of consciousness of plants or animals, clearly a quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of what we would call inanimate matter. You can think of third density as the level of consciousness of humans and cetaceans, like whales and dolphins. Again, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of plants or other animals. You can think of fourth density as the level of consciousness of social memory complexes, as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one single consciousness. Again, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of an individual human. You can think of fifth density as whatever would be a comparable quantum leap above and beyond fourth density, and sixth density as whatever would be a comparable quantum leap above fifth density. If you want to learn more about that, we did a whole episode on densities. Feel free to look it up on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, suffice it to say that Quo appears to be a group entity made up of three planetary consciousnesses: Ra at sixth density, Latwii at fifth density, Hatan at fourth density. First contact was made with Quo by the L&L research channeling team in 1986, about 2 years after the end of the Ra contact. And they have been channeled every month since then, up to present day, by the L&L research channeling team. You can find transcripts of those channeling sessions in the L&L research conscious channeling library shown on your screen. Having said all that, let's take a look at a couple of passages on all souls equal. On July 15th, 1990, Quo said, "You are made of precisely the same infinite intelligence and free will as every spirit in the infinite universe. And speaking metaphysically, you are a portion of utter, complete, and final democracy of spirits. There is none better than you, and there is none worse. You are a portion of the Creator, which is everything. Thus the choices are yours. They do not have to be handed to you by society, by friends, or parents, or spouses, or the ubiquitous they. They say you should do so and so. They're not a pleasant breed with which to deal. Remove them from those voices you wish to grow with, to attend to identify yourself with in terms of ambition." And on October 15th, 1989, Quo said, "Each of you is a portion of the infinite Creator. Each of you is precisely equal, the murderer, the rapist, the saint, and the fool. For each of you has the entire constellation of possibilities within, and it has been with each a matter of choice after choice after choice as to how to live the life, how to serve the Creator, how to practice the presence of the Creator, and how to serve others." Perhaps the most difficult question of all. Love those passages. They're both super beautiful, and it's just fascinating to me how in time space, apparently all souls are equal, all have equal power, since in terms of the space-time physical world as I see it, that is clearly not the case. There's clearly appear to be some individuals who have more power than others. But I like that part about remembering that everyone is equal and don't worry about what they say. It's just interesting, fascinating, and somewhat humor advice, I think. Yasi, any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, those were really, I love them too, Jonathan. I think that the two of them are similar and speak to the same thing. Just one thing about the first paragraph that comes to mind for me is like the idea that they are not responsible for your choices makes me really think that there's true free will. You know, you have true free will because you don't have to assume that what others say or even what others have done is what determines your next choice or your next step. So if you really consider that in the fabric of this, you know, metaphysical universe, like free will is such an important component, this speaks to that greatly, I think. But for me, the sentence that really stands out in that whole reading is, "For each of you has the entire constellation of possibilities within." I love that. And I think not only is that beautiful because it really binds us together. But I think that's, for me, has been the thing that's allowed me to feel true connection and compassion, because anytime you're in a moment of wanting to judge, I think all you have to do is look at whatever that quality is and realize you have seen that quality within yourself. Maybe it's a much smaller degree of it, but you've noticed that quality within yourself. And so you're not so far removed from the behaviors or the decisions of others.
It's a beautiful way to think about it, and I have to admit, I've grappled with that a long time because I've always thought, I don't think I'm a rapist. I don't think I'm a murderer. I'm pretty sure I would never do any of those things in my life, and yet,
Yeah.
you know, it probably wouldn't take that much difference in circumstances for me to
Yeah.
take different path than I have. And
Well, it's
if
like the
I am the
building
creator,
blocks
then
of
the
this.
creator is all of those things, including the
Right.
murderer and the rapist. So,
But
yeah,
also, especially like the building blocks of those, like anger, like lack of seeing others as, it's like the building blocks of those acts, some of those emotional states you might have noticed within you. You're definitely not, those things at their ultimate, but you
for
might
sure.
have noticed.
For sure. Yeah, much appreciate that. Daniel, any thoughts? Anything to add?
Yes, first of all, I love what both of you are saying about this passage. And I want to go more in general because what I'm seeing here is the much important information for already awakened seekers, and people which have not find the spiritual awakening. Because you have very often in the community of seekers, and they all admire the enlightened masters, and they're seeing feel a bit bad that they're not so far developed, let me say it in that way. But here is very clear pointed out that all have the same level and the same possibilities to take a choice. And by choice, I don't mean necessarily by service to others or service to self. I'm talking about here the everyday small choices. Maybe small choices like to save a snail from the walkway to the green grass. So, and is made by every small choice you do in everyday daily activities. So that pointed it out very, very good, and we often forget about it. And I think it cannot repeat too much that everybody is equal in their incarnation, and we don't see it. We used to forget about it. We always admire people which are more developed or have gone more far on the spiritual part, and that is what I like here. It's a very good point which Quo make here. As you say, each
Yeah.
of you is precisely equal. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
that, especially the focus on the little choices that we make every day that can help us polarize further or depolarize us. I'm sure it happens to me, certainly all the time, every day. And I guess each day is another chance to learn how better to make more choices that are more pure, perhaps. So, for sure. Yeah, that idea that all souls are equal, I think for me and maybe others on the service to others path can be a difficult pill to swallow. I mean, saying that basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, God loves Hitler as much as he loves Gandhi. God, Creator loves Donald Trump as much as Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, and loves Elon Musk as much as Warren Buffett. And I would, in spite of the title of this episode, I was not planning on talking about politics in particular, especially because, I mean, whoever you might have strong political disagreements with, they are creator and they are you in another body. And yeah, creator loves those entities as much as loves me. So not being judgmental and not being critical of others who have differences of opinion is definitely a big part of my challenges in learning these days. So just wanted to
In
put that
such
out there at the
cases,
beginning of this episode for folks who are thinking we're going to talk politics here. Well, I was not really planning on talking politics, at least not in specific terms. Do you guys have anything
but in
else you wanted
such,
to share on this passage before we change topics?
yes, I would like to comment on your just what you just said, because sometimes the universe have a very weird kind of humor when you see some people which are also part of the creator, but you're not seeing it at the first sight. So, but you have to accept it as it is, and there's a good opportunity to see the creator in all things.
For sure. Yeah, they always say put yourself in the other person's shoes. If you see somebody doing something that you think is really terrible, put yourself in their shoes. And if you had had all the same experiences as them growing up, you'd probably do the same thing. And I think it's just a statement of fact. For sure, you would do the same thing because they are literally you in another body. So you are literally them doing exactly the same things they're doing. So I fucking hate thinking about that, but apparently it seems to be the truth.
It's
Yasi,
hard.
did
It's
you have
very
any other?
hard.
Yeah, did you have any
Yeah.
other thoughts on anything here before we move on?
Yeah, I think we all struggle with that. I think we all struggle with the true, hitting the ground running like idea of believing that all souls are equal because we see things around us that we don't want to think or, at the same vibrational level or whatever we assume to be, what our soul's striving for. But I think the thing that makes it easier for me to accept is all souls are equal, in the metaphysical sense, but we're not all on the same part of the path. That I think gives me a lot of patience, a lot more than I would normally have, I think, because we're moving along a path of understanding of ascending, I guess, even through third density. We can either be at the bottom of third density or moving up or at the very end of third density in our own soul evolution. So that there's also that happening. And to your point, Jonathan, like, we meet people, all different kinds of people, and they're also on different parts of the path. So we can even see how at some other point we would have been on that same part of the path, I think. That's easier for me to grapple with than, I don't know, the other understanding.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really great way of looking at it and a beautiful way of being able to accept things that we have difficult time with. And I believe Quo said acceptance is the key to processing catalyst on the positive path, and control is key to dealing with catalyst on the negative path. So learning to accept would appear to be a big part of our lessons here. Either of you have anything else wanted to share before we change topics? Sounds
No,
good.
I'm fine.
Well, let's take a look at a few passages on all services equal. Couple passages from November 13th, 2010. And the first one, Quo said, "There is nothing so humble that it does not sing of the beauty of the Creator. The ways of spirit are not the ways of humans. There is no measure for service. All services are equal. If you clean the bathroom with love in your heart, it is as much a service as if you heal or channel or teach with love in your heart. And indeed, if one who teaches or heals does not have love in her heart, you who clean the bathroom are serving more efficiently, more efficaciously, and to a higher degree of beauty." And later on in that session, Quo said, "You did indeed come into your incarnation with your intention set to serve in an outer sense. However, what throws off the thinking of most spiritual seekers in this area is the fact that many entities wish to do no outer service that is obvious. In other words, the energies that have to do with teaching vast numbers of students and raising a child are one and the same. It does not matter whether your attention is lavished upon one child or the children that are of your family, or whether you are a teacher to many. You are being of precisely the same service in either case. Know, therefore, that you do have outer tasks that only you can do, and that you gravitate naturally towards them and cannot be kept from them. But know also that these do not often look like service to your culture." They are such beautiful passages, and I think that session might be one of my favorite sessions of all time. There's so many beautiful things in there, and I think that last part in the second passage kind of harkens back to the previous passage where they were saying forget what they think or what they say about what you're doing. Everyone is called to do certain outer things that only they can do and that they naturally gravitate towards, because that was part of their pre-incarnational programming. But it might not necessarily look like service to others. I just find that such a beautiful thing, especially when you remember that the person who was saying these words was, I think, probably Carla, and she was probably in a deep meditative state and really didn't know what words were coming out of her mouth beyond the sentence she was on and maybe the sentence after that. So to have it play out so beautifully and poetically is just a marvel to me. Daniel, any thoughts on anything here?
Yes, I want to go in the first passage first. It was quite challenging for me in the first place because I was thinking what has the cleaning a bathroom to do with service? So, but looking a bit deeper into it, and look at the metaphysical part of it. So when you are cleaning the bathroom, so the bathroom is also a part of the creator. So when you are doing it with love, you're cleaning up something, and you can actually say you're cleaning with a open heart, with a loving heart, your bathroom, and this bathroom will be happy after because it's clean again. So because they have also I believe that all things have a kind of consciousness. So, and you feel good after the bathroom is clean, you don't like to use it anymore because it should be clean. And then that was quite challenging for me. And to the second part, the service that you can be doing, and I like what I don't know, I think Quo says, or Ra was it even, where he said, to raise children is one of the most beautiful ways to be of service to others, because you are giving your full energy, your full power, and you are seeing your results instantly, often. Yeah. And with the emotions of the children. And one friend of my family says when we talk about raising children's, yeah, children's are kind of bad because they're not doing what you are telling them. They copy the behavior of the parents. That was tackling me also a bit. So I say, yes, actually it's true, but then,
So which is more annoying to you, kids or dirty bathrooms? I'm not sure.
it's a good combination, yes.
Yeah, they usually go together. Yeah, yeah. I am not a germaphobe,
Yes.
and our bathrooms definitely reflect that for sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate your sharing that, and it is a good reminder again that whether you have children or not, there's plenty of people who choose not to have children, and that doesn't mean that you can't be of service in other ways to Creator. Just the idea that scrubbing a toilet, if you do it with love in your heart, you can be making as much difference in the world as Jim McCarty or any great political figure or anything like that. Because in time space, it's the love that you do anything with that really makes a difference. And I just find that super empowering as well as beautiful. Yasi, anything to add? Any thoughts?
I agree. It's funny because like we're now connecting bathrooms and children, and I'm thinking this is very apropos for me because when I had my first kid, I stopped working and I became a stay-at-home, a homemaker. And so I spent a lot of time like cleaning bathrooms and quote unquote taking care of children. But so much of that at the beginning was not really understanding the significance of these exact passages. You compare yourself to the outside world and you almost meet these small, minute tasks, not the children part, let's say the bathroom part, with a kind of resentment. You think, I can't believe like this is what I'm doing right now. Like I should be doing greater things. I should be out there making a bigger difference. Even the children part becomes like you kind of meet it with maybe a kind of resentment that here you are toiling away. Like you just don't really at least I didn't really understand the significance of these tasks and my role in them until a few years later. And as that happens, when you do these things, they teach you something in return. And um, Daniel, you were saying, children emulate what we do. It became all of a sudden at some point so clear to me that my state of being, how happy I was just doing my everyday job as a homemaker, let's say, was what was going to get reflected onto them, was what they were going to actually be inspired by or benefit from. It wasn't just the cleaning the bathrooms or the putting their shoes on. It was like, how was I meeting them every day in the task that I had taken on? And I just feel significance and importance in that, especially, in the day and age of, um, let's say the feminist movement, women saying, and rightfully so, they can be out there, they can do great things. And I think they're all of a sudden the thing that you do at home, the minute little tasks, they almost take on a insignificant or you kind of want to like dismiss them, but they're just as important because if you take them on with that kind of attitude, with that spirit of heart, you are doing really important things. You're the core of that household. You're the thing that's inspiring. So I
For
think
sure.
that I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate your sharing that. My wife Miriam feels much the same way. We have been lucky enough, privileged enough that she's been able to be homemaker and stay-at-home mom as well. But she always feels bad about it in a social situation when somebody asks what she does and she
Yeah.
has to explain that. There's that social stigma, that shame, as if I could have done better than that.
Yeah.
And that's too bad. It wasn't that long ago. I remember in the 1970s where it was not uncommon for single income family, kids, house, vacations. It was a
Yeah.
different economy, shall we say, and
Yeah.
different social expectations, perhaps.
Yeah.
But again, it just really comes back to it doesn't matter what you're doing as a profession or as a person. If you can do it with an open heart and with love, you are lightening earth energies as much as anybody else. That's a beautiful thing.
Mm.
Had a couple other passages to look at. Do you guys have any other thoughts to share on either of these before you look at something else? Yeah, Daniel.
Yes, I wanted to share also one experience shortly about being in charge for the household because I did it by myself in full time for 6 months. Because in this time I gave my wife in this time and the mother of the children the opportunity to attend her courses in the university. So, and I was just came back from a project and I have some savings, so I decided to stay 6 months at home and taking care of the household and two children this time. And it was a bit challenging in the beginning, but I set my routine and it was, I know what it means to be in charge for the household and all these things. And I can't say enough how worthy it is to keep the house clean and prepare food and everything, because that is where the people are coming home and feeling comfortable. If you don't have a comfortable home and make it homely for your partner, whatever it is. So that is basically, I see it as a foundation of the family life. So, of course, today there's another value. There's a lot of value in the money today to bring the income. But I don't know how it is in America. But here I always wondering, and I'm a bit angry sometimes about it. People working in the bank, they're earning more money as a primary school teacher. So it means, in effect, we are giving more money to the people taking care of our money as the people taking care of our children. So, and that is a bit crazy, yeah. And that I want to add that, and one more sentence to the bathroom. I don't know for you guys, but when I'm cleaning the bathroom, I feel also I cleaning a bit of my inner part because when everything is clean and shiny, I feel much comfortable and I feel satisfied. And I think Jesse can share that one as also. I think that is
Agree.
beautiful. Yeah. So
For
that's
sure.
it, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that. And for sure, hats off to all the single parents out there who have to do it themselves the whole time. That's an amazing sacrifice and a beautiful gift to the world. And anyone who chooses to have children now, with the world as crazy and bonky as it is, that's a huge gift and a huge sacrifice to bring another indigo child into the world and to help raise that being, to help fourth density come into place. That is just a huge gift and a huge sacrifice. You could do that and not do anything else and consider yourself a winner in life for sure. Any other thoughts on this screen before I change screens? Sounds good. Let's take a look at another one. This is from September 15th, 1996. Got a couple passages here. The first one, Quo said, "We ask each to see each other as the hands, the voice, and the face of the Creator. It does not matter whether these services are small or great or considered important or unimportant by any society or way of thinking, whatever. What matters is that you are attempting to open the heart, or attempting to use your gifts, and are attempting to make what sense you can of your experience. These are your basic commitments in incarnation. These you may do minute by minute and day by day, and to the world, you may be doing nothing useful." Also said in that session, "When you think of how you spend your time, release yourself from the judgments of those who have strictures of what constitutes service and love. For by the way your being meets the world that it perceives through its senses, each of you is giving the greatest gift of all to the Creator, to each other, and to the planetary vibration. And we feel this is worthy of being emphasized." And on March 18th, 2001, Quo said, "The main service of each of you is the service of being yourself. For when you are most truly and deeply yourself, when your heart is open and vibrating in its fullness, you become a crystal capable of receiving energy, transmuting energy, and releasing energy into the Earth's sphere. Many of you from other planets have come here specifically to do this. It is a simple process. You breathe in, you breathe out, you allow the truth to flow through you." So beautiful passages, and I have thought about them a lot, I think, in recent weeks. There was another passage I didn't share here, but another one where they said, basically, if you can open your heart in this moment, you are being of maximum service to the Creator and to the world. I think it's fair to say the main reason that anyone who is watching this video probably chose to incarnate is to help lighten Earth energies. And you do it just by fucking existing, just by breathing in and breathing out and allowing the energies of Earth to go through you and to pass through you and maybe give it a blessing and send it out. You are lightening Earth energies just by existing here. And I just think that's a super beautiful thing. I am sure there are many people who would rather not be existing right now. And there are probably people who would rather just cut their losses and go home. And all I can say is hang in there. Every day, every minute you live and breathe, you are succeeding in what you came here to do. So, blessings to all, especially you who are going through a hard time. Yasi, any thoughts?
That's beautiful. Oh my God.
Sorry,
Yes.
wasn't planning on getting weepy there. It just happened.
No, please. It's so beautiful. And these passages are just so emotional and beautiful. Thank you for sharing them. I really like that last sentence of the third one is just so gorgeous. I mean, um, allowing the truth to flow through you is just beautiful. I don't know about you, but I feel like the last few months, this idea of being yourself has been so front and center in my mind. You know, I don't know if it's the energies around us, but I find that it's like one of the messages that's trying to get through is just this idea of like shedding all this stuff that's extraneous, that's not you, that's weighing you down to get to the true you. But obviously, that's the journey that we're all on and the ultimate, maybe goal, which I love. In that first paragraph, the thing that says, you're here to use your gifts, open your heart, and make sense of your experience. I feel like that's such a focal points. Like, no matter what you're doing, no matter whether you're in this job or you're a homemaker or you're wherever you are, you have these kind of focus points, and these you can do no matter what. These are your ultimate learning moments, your ultimate goals, right? And I love that because I think knowing that it makes every day, no matter what's happening, have a direction and a sense to it. So, just opening your heart, just learning from experience and growing, and using your gifts, I think should not be discounted. We each have our strengths, we each have our gifts, and really knowing who you are lets you know what those things are, what those gifts are. You're not trying to be everything everyone else is. You're not trying to do everything everyone else can. You just are doing the best you can with what you have. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing you can do. So it's a kind of honesty and authenticity that is just like a beautiful thing to pursue, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as they mention in these passages, it seems that for so many of us, the biggest challenge is being who we know we are or doing what we believe is the right thing to do, in spite of peer pressure to do otherwise or not do that. And I'm reminded of folks who identify as LGBTQ. That's got to be one of the most difficult things, to be who you really know
Yeah.
you are, which might be different who everyone else thought you were before in terms of your gender orientation. But yeah, that is part of your challenge too. And being able to do that and express who you are on the deepest level, as they've said many times, that is the highest service to others you can do, to be who you are on the deepest level, regardless of what the rest of society says.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Daniel, anything to add?
Yes, I would like to add something. I find this passage is very heart-touching, even though I cannot express it much as a German. And
It's just not in your DNA, huh?
yes, but coming to that, to being yourself, so I have to relearn it because you are coming with a condition to this world, to this incarnation, which you set up before by yourself. That is a weird thing about it, on this, which choose your mother, your father, and your surroundings to condition you in a particular way. So, and then you spend your rest of your incarnation to be yourself again without that conditioning. So, meaning this was for me a hard exercise during my spiritual awakening to open my heart again. So, because I came, as some of you may know, I came from the oil industry, and everything what you hear bad of the oil industry is true. And they're really service to self-orientated people. Much of them are there, not all of them, but much of them. And then you have to learn about to reconditioning yourself. And this comes to the point what Ra also mentioned several times, and what is also one of my favorite passage. Know yourself, accept yourself, and become the creator. So, and I have a long conversation with Jim about this, and we agree both that is a life exercise. So, to know yourself is the first step, and it's very difficult sometimes because when you open your heart and you change again, and to be yourself for me is a meaning not to say anything to be polite. You can form it in friendly words, whatever you want to say. But when you want to say something, do it in the friendly way. And then to accept yourself, also all the bad parts, but I don't want to call it bad parts, I call it shadow parts of you, and to do your shadow work. And this is the most difficult part to accept because nobody want to have a bad side. Everybody want to be good and perfect and everything. But if you make it to integrate your shadow side as a part of you, then it becomes interesting. So, and it is a lifetime exercise, as I already said. But this is also, I'm very, for myself, very self-judgmental. And I also have remind myself several times per day, no, you did good there. It was the best thing what you can do. And all the people surrounding me We are just a group consciousness to help you be on your path. Sometimes you just realize something in that moment. So, and from there you take the choices day by day, small choices by small choices, and to find your path. And one thing else, we have an interesting question once in one gathering in Prague. There was, let me call it, a newcomer to the law one, and they say, but when I'm opening my heart, I most probably get hurt. So, and the answer was very clearly from, I think, from myself and Gary as well. So I said, of course, you will get hurt, but when you are going with an open heart into through your life, it is worth because you get much more back
Yeah,
as you give out.
for
Yeah,
sure.
and that is what I want.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing it back to the open heart. It really cannot be emphasized enough, I think, how important that is to the work that we're doing here as wanderers. And that all goes back to chakras and unblocking your red and orange and yellow ray in order to allow the most energy possible to get into your heart, and then keeping your heart open enough to let that energy go back out into the universe. And there's so much things happening around us every day that cause my heart to shut down. It is definitely an ongoing challenge every moment, every day, to keep my heart open as much as possible. But that is, I think, probably the most important work we can do, regardless of what else we appear to be doing physically. I think I had one other passage to look at in this section. Do you guys have anything else to add on this screen before I change the screen?
Not from my side.
Sounds good. This one is from September 26th, 1999, and Quo said, the seeker is living in a very physical consensus reality in which consensus reality rules apply. And in that world, it would seem obviously better to feed 1,000 people than to feed one, to heal 1,000 people than to heal one, to console 1,000 people than to console one. Further, it would seem obvious that the speaker who is putting considerable amount of energy and time upon seeking within the self, meditating, spending time in contemplation, that this kind of activity was not serving others. It would seem obvious that this kind of activity is selfish and service to self. The confusion that the seeker often feels is because these two worlds are offering conflicting pictures and giving conflicting information. For within the world of spirit, it is not at all obvious that it is better to heal 1,000 than to heal one. It is not at all obvious that spending time upon one's development as a person is selfish. In fact, to the contrary, in the world of metaphysical existence, time spent upon developing the gifts and skills of the spirit can be clearly seen to be service to others' work of the highest order. Each of you has a heart full of love, and yet because it is a human heart with a human love, the human supply will run out quickly when it is placed under stress. The hope that each seeker has of becoming a person that may hold a higher quality of love is the hope of moving more and more into the world of eternity and away from the world of space and time, cause and effect, quantity and quality, and differentiation. For it is not what service you do, it is the love with which you do this service that makes all services equal. It is not the healing or the feeding or the changing or the washing that you do. It is the quality of love that you do it. So beautiful. And I think that is a good reminder to folks who do have a hard time caring for themselves and giving themselves the same love and forgiveness that they give everyone else, maybe because they think it's selfish or something like that. But yeah, I love that part in blue in the second paragraph. In the world of metaphysical existence, time spent on developing the gifts and skills of the spirit can be clearly to be seen service to others' work of the highest order. I might only add doing the inner work of healing your traumas and finding it in yourself to forgive someone who really, really hurt you, maybe in a really bad way, to do the inner work of healing on that, I think is probably the greatest gift of service to others you could give to the world. And if you can ever get to that place where you are actually able to forgive someone who hurt you, you are saving the world, I'm sure, more than anyone on this Zoom call is, or anyone else probably in the world. It's a beautiful gift, and I hope, encourage all to do that. Daniel, any thoughts on anything here?
Yes, I would like to open my comment with something Ra said. Each moment contains love, and you just have to see it. And I think that is here the point, that it's very difficult to exercise that in the daily activities, especially when you're having a work schedule, kids schedule, and quite busy throughout the day, to see that love in each moment. And to one passage where he talk about selfishness, I would like to add here also something what I was taught by one meditation teacher, because I have always conflicts to take care of myself with my meditation, with my yoga, which I'm doing, my practice. On the other hand, are the daily activities with the kids and other things. So what the meditation teacher told me, so Daniel, when you are not taking care of yourself, so what your kids getting from you. So when you are feeling by yourself comfortable, when you are balanced, when you have done your meditation, make your exercise, your physical body is also fit. So then you are the right person to take care of your kids. So and sometimes I find it challenging. So to take a decision, a choice, a density of choice again. Do I go for my children or do I go for myself? So, but I found a way to communicate openly to my children, even they are small, 7, 11, and they understand it. I was surprised. So when I said, no, I spent now 4 hours with you. I need now 1 hour for myself to refresh myself, to gain energy. And they'll have a funny response sometimes. Now go and do your meditation and we play afterwards.
Nice.
And that is what I wanted to point out here is you have also to find a way to not be self-judgmental. You need your time for yourself, to prepare yourself, to spend time alone in stillness. So to get yourself balanced again. And I think this is here also part of what is talked about. And out of your stillness and your time for yourself, I call it me time, and you're developing your skills. So you can use your skills more better when you are balanced. When you're always under pressure, under stress, you're not able to do that one. But that time we have to realize by ourselves and accept it. We are coming again to the point, accept yourself as it is. If you need time for yourself, take it, then you can be more worthy and better of service. That is what
For sure.
the first thing that came in my mind.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that many of us, probably all of us, struggle with at some point, finding that me time. Maybe just even finding the time to do is one thing, and then doing it without feeling guilty is another thing for sure. Yasi, any thoughts?
Yeah, this is such an important point, I think, that we're talking about. And Daniel, you point to something that I honestly, I think I would put like asterisks and stars around this for anybody on any single person, no matter what they're doing. I think this like primary purpose, I think Eckhart Tolle called this your primary purpose, like the work that you're doing on yourself. I think it's not like, oh, you should do it. You're okay. You like, I think every single one of us must consider the work on ourselves the primary purpose and the most important service, because anything that we attempt to do in the outside world, if it hasn't at least been begun to be attempted within us, is not going to be fruitful. It's not going to be done to the best of our abilities, and it's not always going to be in the highest service, in my opinion. And I realize that there are these things that we do where we can't do the primary purpose, then do the secondary purpose, like taking care of our children or being true healers. Let's say you're a doctor or being a teacher. Obviously, we can't like pause that, do all the inner work, and then go do that. But I think they have to be happening concurrently. all the time. It's like the teach, learn, learn, teach, like you must also always be learning. You must also always be self-healing, self-forgiving. Daniel, you said something in the previous thing about knowing yourself, accepting yourself. The thought came to my mind, knowing yourself means listening to yourself. I think listening to yourself, hearing yourself is so important. And if you don't have that minute of silence, that amount of time you've given yourself to truly hear, listen, understand, there is no way that you're going to be able to give that to the outside world. So I don't know. I think this is one of the most important passages ever, maybe most important services we could ever do. Honestly, the primary one.
Well said.
That's my belief.
Yeah, beautiful reminders. Agree with everything both of you said. And as you were speaking, I was picturing that density slide that we were looking at earlier and saying that fifth density is whatever is beyond fourth density and sixth density is whatever. If you go back and look at the slide, yeah, fourth density is often referred to as the density of love. It's where we really learn the lessons of unconditional love and service to others on that path, or service to self on the other path. Fifth density is usually referred to as the density of wisdom. And sixth density is referred to as the density of unity. And Quo, probably Ra too, I think I've said, most wanderers here on Earth came from sixth density and came for two reasons, both to help lighten planetary vibrations, but also to refine the balance of love and wisdom within themselves, because that's what you're doing in sixth density. You're trying to find that balance. So I think for all of us in each of our little situations, through each of the little choices that we make every day, are trying to refine that balance between love and wisdom.
Definitely.
Doing it as a group is a really nice way to do it. So appreciate
So
having the two of
nice.
you here and everyone else who is part of the community. And I would encourage you to hook up with a Law of One study group somewhere out there if you're not already. Huge help. Either of you guys have anything to share on this before we change topics?
Mm, oh,
Sounds good. Well, let us take a look at a passage on power and powerlessness. On April 22nd, 2007, Quo said, and this has been edited for brevity, "Your culture is a very disempowering culture, in our humble opinion. It seems to be bent on removing from your mind any thoughts that do not have to do with maintaining the status quo of life as a consumer. However, my friends, you are at heart not simply a consumer. Indeed, you are potentially a co-creator and a magical, powerful being capable of functioning in such a way as to change the true core nature of planet Earth on the metaphysical level. You share the consciousness of unconditional love. This consciousness you have in common with all souls. As the one known as A has noted recently, this is a spiritual democracy. You are precisely equal to all other souls. You are all a part of the infinite creator. When you are attempting to form a rule of life, as each of those present in this room is attempting to do, let the heart and the soul of this rule of life be love. Let the center be consciousness." Such a beautiful passage here, and yes, I did edit it out so that I could fit all of this on the screen. But yeah, it just reminds me of what Quo has said before. Part of the reason why the graduation requirement for service to self is only 51% service to others, as opposed to like 95%, which is the graduation for service to self, is because we live in a world that really seems to be biased towards service to self. If you look around at the social, political, economic structures of our world, yes, they do really seem heavily biased towards service to self. So putting others before yourself is something that's definitely a challenge to do. Especially beyond just looking out for your own family and your own tribe's needs. And I just find this really beautiful to realize that in spite of how little power we seem to have compared to, let's say, what's going on in the political world, that We do have all have equal power in time space, and that is a beautiful, comforting, and I think true thing, even if you have to take it on faith. Yasi, any thoughts on anything here?
It all of a sudden, I don't know where this came from, but all of a sudden I thought of Star Wars. I feel like Star Wars is like permeating everything today. I thought of Star Wars and like the Force, right? Like to me, that always it was like the Force is love, right? The Force isn't like you don't have love and then I have some love and then it's like a commodity that we're exchanging. It's like it's actually the thing that's the field within which you're in. And so each of you is just bathed in it and has access to it at any point if you just become conscious of it, right? Like you just have to kind of become conscious that you have the force, it's surrounding you, and that you can use that force to carry out your will. And I just feel like that's really speaks to the kind of spiritual democracy in the sense that not some of us have more love or less. We all have the same exact equal access to this like unconditional and also unending, like eternal. You know, love is not like a limited resource. It's just this like never ending, continuously flowing, always available. Like Daniel said, the moment contains love. Like it's just always there. So, what a beautiful way to think about spiritual democracy in my mind. You know, then you are truly equal because you are all able to touch that field of love, to use the force.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe when this episode uploads, it probably will be in May. I don't think it'll be May 4th, but it'll be somewhere relatively close to that. So thinking ahead in space time, yes, May the 4th be with you.
Yes. And also with you.
And also with you. Yeah, just to get a little bit of Protestantism into the
Yeah.
Star Wars cosmology. Daniel, any thoughts to add?
Yes, I think it's a very important information which is here converted by Quo, because I see here also some information between the lines, as I used to say, because here is written you are the potentially a co-creator and a magical, powerful being. And this is what happened on our planet already several times, because physically we have all that ability, like telepathy, telekinesis, and all that things. There are some incidents, texts, and some movements which are new coming up. They said you had all that possibilities because you just unlearn it because of your way your culture is developing. The people which have living close to the nature or in balance with the nature, they had all that abilities before in this circle of the third density of this particular planet. So, and there is also where the phrase is coming, everything is within you. So, and the power to use it is what Quo also state here is let the heart and the soul of this rule of life be love. I think love is the key here to use that abilities which we already had, and that my partner in the low one Europe group is always reminding me. She's always reminding me on that one. It starts already with your thoughts. When you have permanently worrying about something or a bad thoughts, it is a kind of energy. It is an energy which is here the co-creation. And if you have permanently positive thought and thinking the positive things which are in each situation, so there you create out of it, and it is very powerful what Quo say, and that is always what we call it mainstream media don't want to let us know, because there are so many examples in the history, but they are not published because they want to have people which are easy to, let me say it, easy to control. But if you know the power you actually have, so that is where they're afraid of. So,
For sure.
so when we are able to develop all that things once again, and I think we are close to it because we are on the step to fourth density, and we know also from some channelings from Quo also in the one of the Prague gatherings, I think it was last year or the year before, that even Quo states in that group of the gatherings, there's so much love and so much spiritual power that these people from the gathering created a kind of oversoul.
Right.
And this is a power where it starts, where you can create all that. But he's also stating you share the consciousness and of unconditional love. And that is a foundation, I think, to come back where we are actually coming from, to get all the abilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is what came in my mind by this passage. Yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful. And I think what came into my mind as I was listening to you was there's been, I think, a few passages where Quo has said in fourth density, the light is more dense. That is why they call it densities, by the way, in case you didn't know. Supposedly, the light at each of those different levels is more dense, meaning it's got more truth in it, more information in it. And as Earth is already vibrating fully in fourth density and just waiting for humanity to catch up, seeing a little bit more into that time space of where thoughts are things and our thoughts are more easily manifested into things. So as you're thinking, if you have negative thoughts all the time, you're going to manifest negative things. And if you try to change the way you're thinking, then indeed you can co-create a different kind of reality. It's a really easy thing to forget. And as you said, society, the powers that be are clearly service to self and clearly don't want people to be thinking about that, clearly don't want people to realize how powerful they are. They'd rather just keep us distracted with buying things and shit like that. So I think we're going to be coming back to that in a couple passages from now. Otherwise, anybody else have anything to say on this passage before we change topics?
Well, I just wanted to say, from what you both just said, and Daniel, what you were sharing about the, co-creator and magical, powerful being, that it highlights something very important about this idea of spiritual democracy, because you don't have to think you have to be some kind of a great shaman, or, I used to always think that the people who really had the power or the magic were the ones that the astrologers, the shamans, the ones who were like, could hear and see, and mediums. But really, it highlights how accessible these quote unquote powers are to each and every one of us, with very simple, really, tasks: paying attention to your thoughts, going forward with love, listening to your intuition, understand. Like, I just feel like it's really puts you on an even playing field with who you might consider way more powerful or way more magical than yourself. In fact, you are just as powerful and magical by just doing those important but simple few things. So I love that idea. I
Like
think that
scrubbing
makes
the
all of
toilet, for
us.
example.
As long as there's love in your heart.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. That is the key. Yeah.
That is the key.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your reminder on that because, yeah, I used to think, yes, I want to be some kind of great spiritual healer or something like that. And I think healing comes in so many different forms. And I think everyone on the Zoom call, everyone who's watching this, everyone is a healer in some way. Anytime you do something with an open heart, channeling the love of the Creator through you, you are being a great spiritual healer. And appreciate everyone who does that. Thank you for adding that, Yasi. Either of you have any other thoughts you wanted to add on this passage before we change topics?
No, let's change the topic.
Sounds good. Well, let's take a look at a passage on what in the Law of One is known as social memory complex. On December 9th, 2001, Quo said, "It is not, however, to our mind a physical goal of physically incarnate beings to achieve the complete fourth density social memory complex. The concern that we share with you here is simply that there is not the desire for outer achievement or for some kind of clique or society of elite. It is well to realize that the social memory complex is not that which is made up of certain selected entities whose personality shells seem to indicate a certain level of awareness. Rather, in the complete democracy of spirit, the social memory complex is made connection by connection, energy exchange by energy exchange between all peoples who connect in all ways on all levels, and in many, many cases without there being a noticeable catalyst. Consequently, it is well to work with those with whom there are special connections. It is also well to level the gaze to include all entities whatsoever who come within the purview of any being who is working on this very worthwhile line of direction in the seeking to serve the one infinite creator. I think about this passage a lot because oftentimes, in our study groups, we talk about how we can help form a social memory complex. And I think it's easy to think that a social memory complex is going to be just people who think like us and who agree with us. And I think what they're saying is here, no, that is not definitely not the case. Social memory complex is going to be made up of a lot of people with whom you may have profound disagreements, but it's about harmonizing the differences. Ross said in describing fourth density, it's density where there are still very profound differences, but the differences are harmonized. So I like what they're saying in the last part, where it's nice to go ahead and work with, the people that you have special connections with, but it also includes the random person you run to in the checkout line or in traffic or, whatever random people you run across in your daily rounds. That's also learning how to work with them to become part of a social memory complex. I think that's a beautiful lesson and a great reminder of, again, everything that we can do every day. Daniel, any thoughts on anything here?
Yes, I believe to remember, I think we are only one of few cases of social memory complexes in the third density. I think it was mentioned in the Ra material. There was only one group in South America that formed a social memory complex, I think, in the end of the third density. But I
I
think
don't
that
remember
is
that. That seems like it would be a really unnatural thing to happen in third density. Was it in the law
yes.
contact? I'll have
I
to look
believe
that up.
I read it there that this was only one. I think in South America there was a small group which then completely disappeared.
Oh, right. Okay. Is that a
Yeah,
social
and
memory complex, or I think they were just
as
harvestable in spite of
no,
having not formed some sort of social
yeah. I
group?
think yeah, maybe you're right. But I believe to remember something, or they have formed immediately afterwards. They have formed a social memory complex because
Hmm.
they are far developed in third density,
Hmm.
and I think that is not the goal of the third density to form the social memory complex. There's always a romantic fantasy, let me call it, but we have the possibility to do so, but with small groups, I think. From my opinion, it is possible when you are starting with a complete open communication. What I call by myself the hard communication. It means that you are not only speaking in words, and always express in words what your emotions are in these situations, in these conversations. And it's a very hard exercise, I'm telling you. So, and because you always try to do that with your loved ones, can be close friends, partner, whatever. But you come to the point when you want to speak the truth, you don't want to hurt the partner on the other side. So we try to form the word in the more friendly way, and with that one you start to distort things small. And I think that's a good practice. If you want to do that, you should start with that exercise to practice the open communication, this hard communication, as I call it. If you want to go into the forming of a social memory complex. So I think it's the first step, because the social memory complex have the communication to telepathy, or which form everybody knows what the other one is thinking. And I think that is you can do that, but I think it's not the main target of the third density. But I think also what Quo here points out very good, that the people are not chosen; they are just formed as a social memory complex, in the way they are working together and they're developing together as a I think it starts as a group consciousness in the first place. And
Mhm.
I like that this he how you call it to balancing a bit the how the people are seeing the social memory complex. Yeah, that is what I like to add here. I ran a bit off topic, sorry, but I
It's a big topic. It's a complex topic. And I do remember there was a session where I actually
Mm,
got to ask a question about social memory complexes and how we can help form one in third density. And I don't remember the details of the response, but it was basically to the effect of, you're not here to form a social memory complex in third density. You're here to experience third density and how to learn to love unconditionally. And
mm,
I think that may well include a lot of things that you're talking about, Daniel, in terms of communication. I would think is a big part of
mm.
it. Any thoughts, Yasi? Anything to add?
Yeah, mine, I like what Daniel, you were saying about open communication, because that's what came to my mind too when I read these passages. I love, right, the open heart communication and how that should be something we all work towards to connect us. And it also brings to mind for me, when we think of communicating, a lot of times we think of what we're going to say, and what important things we have to convey. We don't often think of listening as part of communication. And to me, this kind of idea of including others besides our own, same believers, has a lot to do with listening, the ability to hear other points of view, the ability to not just assume no one has anything to impart to us that could be of value to us. We have no idea, right? We judge, we think you don't have the same belief system, you're not as advanced spiritually, there's no way you're going to say something that's going to add to my understanding. But that's definitely not true. And to include everyone, it means to convey to them what you want and to listen to what they have to say. So I think that's one thing that I would add to what you were saying about open communication. And the other idea that came to mind was like, you had mentioned earlier this idea of your shadow side and how important it is, right? And it definitely is, not only our own personal shadow sides, but any shadows in this group setting, our shadow sides, our dark sides, they all propel us to learn something, to grow, to think of something differently, to look at an experience differently. So if all we ever got was like light, positive, highest way of thinking, we would never have the catalysts to push us in the directions we need to be pushed to truly understand and learn and grow. So I think it's essential that we surround ourselves with others of different mindsets, because that's how I think we become a truly unified group, and how we expand our own understanding and our own growth. So yeah.
Well said. Yeah, I still grapple with that on a daily basis, but yeah, can't help but agree with you. There's an image that's come to mind a lot recently in thinking about this, and it's a lifeboat. It's like, imagine being on a sunken ship and you're in a lifeboat, and you didn't necessarily get to choose who you were in a lifeboat with. You just ended up with whoever you were with, and you may well like not particularly like one or more people in the boat, and yet you're all there and you all sort of have an obligation to work together and help each other out. And in many ways, that's kind of how I picture planet Earth. It's like, if it was up to me, no, I probably wouldn't have chosen a lot of the people here to be here, and yet they have been chosen for us. And as you're saying, as both of you are saying, I think every soul has gifts to offer. Every individual has pieces of the puzzle. Might not be obvious to you what they are, but yeah, if we all work together, including the folks that we don't particularly like, I think we can make some beautiful things happen.
Yeah, and plus, if this whole journey is a self-inquiry journey at the end of the day, right? It's almost everything else is an illusion. Then I think of the phrase, it's one of my favorite raw phrases, which is all that assaults the senses is catalyst, right? I feel like that includes our interactions with people who are like rub us the wrong way, let's say. Like, why is that bringing up some emotion within us? It's got to still go back to looking inwards and seeing where that is. What is that little nuance that is still getting, catalyzed? Like, why are we feeling emotional in those situations? It's still like an inward journey at the end of the day, I guess. So in that sense, it has merit, if for no other reason.
For sure. For sure. Daniel?
Yes, I want to add what she just said is it also reminds me on the point I have also always I was angry before with the people which triggers me, which I learned when something is triggering you, that is coming is your problem, not the people who are triggering you. That is your own thing inside which cause trigger. So the person was just coming, bypassing you and be your catalyst and point it out for you. And that is where the work starts. And something triggers you, you have to work on it. So
For sure.
I wanted to add to this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it kind of calls back to what we were saying before about doing the inner work. When you do the inner work of healing those triggers, that's one of the greatest things you can do in service to others to lighten planetary energies. It's a great reminder. You guys have anything else you want to add before we change topics?
Let's change. I just wanted to say it occurred to me that Quo is made up of different social memory complexes. Like Quo is made up of sixth density, fifth density, and a fourth density. So they're doing the same thing. Like they're not made up of the same density themselves, which I find is interesting. Right?
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
fascinating? Yeah. Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a look at a passage on spiritual leadership. On October 26, 2024, not that long ago, Quo said, and this has been edited for brevity, those who can, as you may see it, lead these movements toward oneness already exist here and now. Each and every one of you has that ability simply by radiating your truth yourself, your heart as authentically as possible, allowing the light within you to shine through without stain or debris or shadow to be cast, to fully accept yourself and those around you, and to open your arms in loving service to yourself and those around you. You, my friends, in the simple act of being, are those leaders. Of course, with every moment in history, there are those who may make the book, if you will. Their names may be printed or spoken or stories retold. And we would say that so long as the mission and path forward is known, no one is more important or more powerful in that movement. And so, my friend, you are a leader. Each person in this circle is a leader. Each expression of creation on this planet at this time can be a leader. One simply must find and discover themselves and their truth, allow themselves to express themselves in their truth with freedom and full acceptance. And I will say again, it cannot be emphasized enough. All of these reading passages that we're looking at came to us through the process of channeling. And again, the person who was saying these words really weren't particularly aware of what words were coming out. And they certainly had no idea what it was going to look like in the end. And again, yeah, it's just another beautiful, empowering thing that you who are watching this video at some other time, you're as much a leader in this movement towards third density as Jim McCarty was, or Carla, or anyone else who seems to be more visible leadership position. And it doesn't matter if you have what society considers to be leadership skills. As they're saying, just by being yourself on the deepest level of who you are and channeling the love of the one infinite creator through you with as little distortion as possible, with as open a heart as possible, you are a leader in the movement towards oneness. Just what a beautiful thing. And even if we never meet in person, thank you for doing that, person watching on video. Yasi, any thoughts on this?
I love this, Jonathan, because I think that everybody wants to or wonders what they can do in this world to make a difference and to be, a force for good. And I think so many people, so many of us want to reach out really far away and have some kind of an impact somewhere where we can't really reach and on which we don't have a lot of power or influence. And we forget or maybe don't realize that the greatest thing we can do is starts right at home, like starts right in your center, and in that way you are the greatest leader. When I was reading this passage, I had this image of the pebble that drops in the still water and then the concentric circles go out. I think that that's the impact we all have, the interactions you have with your spouse, your friends, your kids, your neighbors, the people close to you in your circle. That's the kind of wave that you cause, right? And that goes out in concentric circles to everybody they're close to and everybody they're close to. So believe it or not, you are a leader in that sense. You cause a wave to go outwards, and it's the greatest impact you have. You may not have impact in, halfway across the world where you think you wish you really could make a difference, but you forget your true impact right here at home, meaning really within you, within your circle. So I think that if you realize how impactful you are, the wave that you send out, and that really all you have to do is, I think of the sentence, be the light. Just be it. Just be you. Be the authentic you. Be light. Like inspire in that way. You don't have to have words. You don't have to have big teachings. You can just inspire by doing your best, by trying, by forgiving, especially yourself. I think those little acts, those are beautiful and people are inspired by them. And you guys all know when you're around that kind of genuineness, you are so touched that you go out and you do something similar. So that's huge,
That's the
that
ripple
impact.
effect. Yeah.
That's the ripple effect. And I
Yeah.
love that. And I think we're all that powerful.
So beautifully said. So beautifully. Thank you. Yeah, the idea that one single act of love can brighten the whole world, brighten the whole universe, creation, as it were.
Totally.
It's beautiful.
Totally.
Daniel, anything to add? Are you there, Daniel? I'm not hearing anything, and it looks like your screen might be frozen.
Maybe it is. I
Um,
saw him move a little bit.
okay,
Oh, there
I
you
have
there
are.
we go.
much to add.
Yeah, that's okay. I think Yasi said it beautifully. I don't think
Can you hear me now?
I
Yeah,
can
you
hear
were
you now. We
frozen.
weren't really hearing anything from the last couple of minutes. If you were speaking before this, feel free to go ahead and say it again.
And yeah, I just want to add here that I only actually repeat what she said already. We cannot imagine how much impact we have on other people. So everybody and each person underestimate how much impact we have on our environment. So I just want to bring a short example because I started like one and a half, 2 years ago in my work environment, which is a very male-dominated domain in the construction, to start to express emotions. So I communicate my emotions, and it was quite confusing for the people. And my boss picked it up and put some value on it. And all of a sudden, after one and a half or 2 years, it become a habit at work. So the people are talking about when they not feel respectfully treated or something like that. And it was even confusing our managing director. So I told him in the face we have a evaluation once in a while, there's a staff evaluation. And I told him, you're always talking about something when you're not living. You're talking about that everybody's the same level and the low management level, and except that we are not living it. And he was confused about that one in the first place. And it having so much impact that he made company-wide anonymous requirement with questions how the people are seeing their leaders in the company. So everybody can answer questions online and without a name. So, and it is becoming now a yearly exercise to value the stuff. And I think not all of it, but I think I give because of my starting to express emotions and how I feel with things that happen at work. Because a small stone started rolling, as we used to say, and then it became a huge impact for the whole company. And that in the construction level, where no emotions is shown at all usually. Yeah. That is, I wanted to point it out, not to put myself higher, but to see how much small things can have a big impact on your environment.
For sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing. Someday, all Germans will learn to express their emotions. I believe. I have a dream. Someday. Yeah, yes. And Americans will learn to
Yeah,
share
I have
less of their emotions than they do at the drop of a hat. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah, there
so much
was
That's
for sharing.
more
awesome.
speaking. The Americans are trained to more speak from the heart. And I'm talking to Americans, everything is awesome and wonderful, everybody is successful and nobody have any problems.
You would think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, it's one of the things I love about these podcasts is getting to meet other folks and panelists and sharing stories of how you live the law of one in your daily life. That is most valuable. I believe we have one more set of passages to go through and one more topic. Either of you guys have anything to add on this one before we change?
I wanted to say one last thing, Jonathan, which is this last part that you highlighted, each expression can be a leader. Each expression of creation can be a leader. It just also want to highlight, like, you might have a really important point and be truly right morally and spiritually, but your expression of like anger and indignation, all of that, even though it's, let's say, based on true feelings, that expression also goes out in a wave. And so I think it's an important thing to keep in mind. Like, it doesn't have to go out as anger or indignation. Like, you can feel those things, you can wonder where they come from, you can be right in your thoughts, but be wary or be aware of, anger and resentment and, all that. That's a creation you're putting out there also, maybe not even meaning to. You're fighting for good, but the anger and indignation emotion, if that's the thing that's going out, that's what you're putting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want to add
cannot be
something.
emphasized enough and certainly hits home for me. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, and what I could never believe, even Jim McCarthy have in the past a lot of anger issues. He used to share it also in the calls. I couldn't imagine this with him, for him, but and he told me last year, yes, it was really issue. Sometimes it still becomes an issue, but we have integrated in his shadow work.
And he
I
didn't
bet we've
figure it
all
out
have.
until his 60s, as I
I
recall. So
know.
everyone else, he got plenty of time. Yeah.
Mm.
He said that Carla had anger issues too, which is interesting. I think I meant to ask him about it at some Q&A, and I think I kind of forgot, but I have to ask him at the next one.
That all makes me feel so much better. Like the sharing of these people, these revered people who admit of having the same base emotions as me has been one of the greatest like group healings ever,
For
honestly.
sure. For sure. Well, let us go ahead and take a look at one more passage on what Quo once referred to as straw vote. On February 11th, 2007, Quo said, and this has been edited for brevity, believe it or not. I think we got 2 slides on this one. The time is coming, and indeed is nigh at hand, when something you might call a tipping point is imminent. And indeed, it stands before you at this time. What is that tipping point? That tipping point is a straw vote, shall we say, an informal poll, if you will, of the tribes of humankind, to see if the majority of entities want to separate themselves forever from any path except violence, or if they want to progress into fourth density and beyond. There are entities from fifth density on the service to self path that are attempting a coup, shall we say, of this train of humankind running along this parallel time track. They would like it not to rejoin the main track. The guardians of this planet and those light givers within your planetary forces, both seen and unseen, have all moved heaven and earth literally to create a slowing of the forces of time so that every possible instant may be given to the development of planet Earth's human population to the point where the vote of the straw poll is for service to others and not for service to self, for radiance, peace, and harmony rather than contraction, war, and hostility as a background to the everyday life. We are very hopeful. If that last moment were this very day, the straw poll indicates that your planet will rejoin the typical normal progression of space-time. What the negative entities would like to do is to have that tipping point go the other way and to have people say, no, no, it's important to war because we want to gain resources, because we want to defend our family, and because of the whole laundry list of those things that the great apes are instinctually bound to consider priorities. We confidently believe, excuse me, that's a cough. We confidently believe that your planet will rejoin that natural movement and progression of your planet into fourth density space-time. We do not believe that the entities who attempted this coup will be able to convince the majority of entities upon planet Earth that a fear-based and violence-ridden solution is the correct solution to the ethical dilemmas of this time. If entities convince themselves that the forces of war are the correct forces in which to invest, your planet would be lost and would become a feeding ground for fifth density entities who feed off of fear and suffering. This would be a slavery which all the slaves agreed was needed. We believe that your people will throw off the yoke of slavery to violence and begin to sustain responsible efforts to become truly free, to evolve and progress. It is, as always, the choice of those of planet Earth, and none other may vote in this particular referendum. Super interesting passage and probably super confusing to anyone who hasn't read anything about time laterals or space pirates. But I think I'm just going to go straight to the panelists on this one. Yasi, any thoughts on this? What do you make out of all of this?
Daniel was first on this one, I think. I don't want to take his spot.
I think Daniel told us that he wasn't up on time laterals and space pirates. So I'm going to go to you first, and we'll see if Daniel has anything to add after that.
Well, first of all, this was said in 2007. I wonder what Quo thinks now, almost 20 years later. But what I think about is this idea that there are these fifth density entities sort of like parallel to us, just sort of trying to infiltrate, right? Trying to get in, trying to see if they can sway us to the dark side. What I think about in the raw material is this idea that you are only as vulnerable as your distortions. Because the thought comes to mind, like, what can you do? What can you do, right? Like, how can you go towards the light? How can you make Earth more likely to human population more likely to veer towards the light? And I think that that's how they're going to get you, right? They're going to get you on your distortions. They're going to get you on your fear, on how much you think you're suffering, on all the little things that you haven't looked at or addressed within yourself. That's how clever they are. Like, it's not going to be some obvious, fight with the rebel. Like, it's going to, with the soldiers of the empire, it's going to be like a mind thing. It's going to be how much have you worked on healing your own fears? How close are you to the idea of love in the moment? Like, so that's, I think, where the hope lies. And if we're each of us going to take that gauntlet, it's going to be on that, because of course those forces are out there hoping to sway our whole planet to become a service to self planet and to increase their power and their fifth density I guess vibration more and more. So that's what comes to my mind, is like, how are they going to get to you, and what can you do to protect yourself and stop it from happening, I guess.
Yeah, great thoughts, great perspective. And yeah, I believe it would be fair to say this is something that relates both to the choices that an individual can make to graduate to fourth density on the path of service to others or service to self, but also collectively as a humanity, we have possibility of graduating as a group into fourth density to become a service to others social memory complex or service to self, either path. Daniel, did you have any thoughts on this? Any of this stuff making sense to you, or is this just a lot of weird stuff?
Yes, it make a lot of sense to me, but I think that the passage is it summarized a bit the things we talk about in the previous slides. And of course, they're trying to interrupt and spraying fear everywhere because it's the only thing what they can do. But they are a bit, we call it pathetic for me because the planets already decided to move into fourth density. So the service to selves being on this planet, they know already that their time is over, at least on this planet. So there was one quote in the where Jonathan loved memes on the internet. So I see one quote that was very nice. He say, "Why they built bunkers in the underground when they could leave the planet? So they can't leave the planet because of the quarantine. So they built bunkers to protect themselves from the light which is coming. So they can't run away from the light which is sprayed on that planet." And why I'm saying is a summarizing of all things we spoke before, because the people are start slowly, very slowly, but step by step to wake up and realize their true power of the kind of self-empowerment. So my grandfather, who served on the Second World War and of the German side, he used to say, "What gonna be happen when there's a war and nobody is going there?" So they need soldiers to serve in the war.
Mm.
And if nobody is going, there will be no war. So it is for my previous generations, they give me the information to me and say, "So do when if you don't do what they're expecting you to do, you decide it on your own what is right and what is wrong." And this is the part where we are at the moment. And I think whatever caused the internet to appear on this planet, I think it was not the intention to give the people the freedom to share the thoughts, to come together. The internet is so much controlled. It's a very powerful source at the moment. So they can't do anything anymore. The people are exchanging thoughts. You're getting information from conflict zones in the world through the internet, through social medias, which was never happened before. And that's something which they can't control. And when they can't control the things, we're actually free to do what is in our needs. And that we just have to realize how powerful we are, actually. That's what came in my mind when I discussed it.
Yeah, interesting. Appreciate your sharing that. And I don't think I've seen the quote passage that you were referring to. I'll have to take a look at that one. If you can put the date on that or something in the chat window, if you can find it, that would be great. For our viewers who have no idea what this passage is referring to, this might be a good time to give a little bit of background on what Quo referred to, not in this passage, but in other passages as the time lateral and space pirates, as Carla jokingly referred to them. For this, just might want to note, again, third density is known as the density of choice because apparently the whole point of third density is to make a choice between the path of service to others, or STO, or service to self, or STS. And in order to graduate from third density to fourth density as an individual, you have to achieve a vibration level of at least 51% service to others, 49% service to self. To graduate on the service to self path, you have to achieve a vibration level of at least 95% service to self, 5% service to others. And in between the two is what Ra referred to as the sinkhole of indifference, because the vast majority of humanity don't even realize that there's a choice to make. And even the ones who do realize there's a choice to make just kind of swing back and forth between the two and don't quite achieve enough of a vibration to graduate. I think Quo at one time said the default setting for most people is 75% service to self, 25% service to others. That's on the individual level, but again, graduation also works on the collective level. So humanity as a whole could theoretically move the needle if a critical mass of the population commits to the path of service to others as opposed to service to self, but could easily move the needle the other way. And there are planets and other parts of the universe that have indeed graduated to service to self in the fourth density. And so, yeah, they have said, because there's such a tug of war between the two in humanity, that just really haven't been able to move needle far enough to graduate on service to others. And as I think Daniel was saying, those on the service to self path probably realize they really can't persuade the majority of people to live in a world based on violence and fear rather than peace and love. So the best they can do, at least, is just keep people confused to keep the planet from being able to move the needle far enough. So there was something that has been mentioned more than a few times in quote channeling sessions, but they didn't use the terms time lateral here. But what they mean, and again, you can just do a word search for time lateral in the LNL archives. You could think of the main track of progression as that straight line going from the bottom to top, going from third to fourth density. But they have said at some point the guardians of this planet were concerned that there just weren't enough people graduating and they were trying to increase the harvest. So they created what's called a time lateral, a side track where, as they said, they slow down time and space in order to give people more opportunities and chances to graduate, both as an individual, as a collective. But there are the fifth density negative entities that were referred to in this passage as fifth density negative entities, who Carla jokingly referred to as space pirates, whose goal is to keep that time lateral from rejoining the main track and rather just let humanity just kind of get stuck in that side track. People would choose not to graduate in service to others, but instead would decide, yeah, we just want to live in a world of perpetual war. And if that was the case, it would be kind of like what we're experiencing now, only like forever, where we just seem endlessly caught in endlessly repeating cycles of war and empire and bellicosity, which, according to Quo, it provides food for those fifth density negative entities that feed on vibrations and fear. So that is kind of the whole context for this passage that we just read through. And I think this is the only passage I'm aware of where they actually refer to this thing called a straw vote. But for what it's worth, yeah, it is another layer of spiritual democracy, I guess you could say. Either of you guys have anything to add to this in light of that?
Yes, I just want to add, I think for the service to self-orientated beings, I think that planet is, for my personal belief and perception, that is so interesting for them, this planet. And there's a reason, I think, also for the quarantine, because we have on this planet such a beautiful diversity on species and natural environment. That is actually what is called in the Bible the paradise. I think that is the Garden Eden, is meaning the earth. What is now the earth is what we make out of it. But I think that makes the planet so much interesting for other extraterrestrial beings because we have so much, we call it a data bank of DNA on this planet with all plants and animals and different kind of species, which we all even don't know all, but I think it makes it so interesting for them, and it's the reason why we are so well guarded and supported from other side also.
Yeah, well said. It is such a beautiful paradise planet. It is like the Hawaii of the universe, I would think. And it seems to be a service to others, positive planet by nature. It just seems like nature, the Earth is such a beautiful giving planet. It certainly does not seem to be service to self by nature, but that is why, as you're saying, I think it's been of interest for so long for both the Confederation and what's called the Orion Empire. Positive and negative entities both would love to have this planet either to become a positive planet for service to others or to just blow the whole fucking thing up for service to self entities, as they have done so many times on so many other planets. Yeah, apparently there are service to self entities who would love nothing more than to just blow the whole thing up. Because if you can't be service to others, if you can't be service to self, then they just don't want it to become service to others. They'll just blow the whole fucking thing up. Why not? And as long as you understand that, then people who are watching this and anyone else, once you realize what's happening and what's at stake and that there is choices to be made, well, now you have the power of choice. Do you want to live a life of service to others or service to self? Do you want to live in a world of war or a world of peace, a world of love or a world of fear? Would you rather be a slave or would you rather be free? According to this passage, you do actually get to choose, and it's only entities on Earth who get to make that choice and that vote. So if you know it, then do it. Anything to add, Yassi, before we wrap things up?
Well, to end on a positive note, I was going to say for those who feel disheartened, because it can feel disheartening when you look around, you're hoping everyone's on the same page as you, but you don't always get that. I feel like Quo's wording is very encouraging. You know, they're saying we're very hopeful, we're confidently believe, like we do not believe that this attempt will work. Like I think that, and they can obviously see, you know, way further into our future than we can. So I think that we should keep hope in our, you know, in the front of our eyes and not lose heart and not lose the belief that they seem to have for us, that we're capable of doing it and that we're heading, hopefully, as a collective in the right direction. So don't be disheartened.
Yeah, and as they have said in other passages, you're not here to change the world. You're just here to love it as it is. So not worrying about other people and what they're doing and just focusing on yourself. And again, being as true to yourself, being yourself on the deepest level as possible and sending that love out and transmitting it to the world. That's the greatest thing that you can do.
Agree.
Any other last thoughts before we wind things down and wrap things up?
No.
Sounds good. So where do we go from here? What are some good takeaway lessons perhaps from our time together? I might suggest a few. For one thing, yeah, if you don't remember anything else, if you remember that all souls and all acts of service are exactly equal, that is a great takeaway lesson. And that each, in fact, is creator and co-creator. As they said, it's a holographic universe. Every single bit of the universe, from the largest down to the smallest iota, contains the whole, contains the creator, contains universal love. Learning to harmonize with all, always a good lesson for third density. And if you didn't know this, yeah, make a choice. Choose path of service to others or service to self, love or fear, peace or war, freedom or slavery, and polarize as purely as you can in that direction. Preferably service to others, selfishly, I would say, but whatever that is. Daniel, any takeaway lessons of your own you'd like to add, or last thoughts, reflections on the subject?
You summarize it very well. So, and I just want to thank you to give us the opportunity here to be of service in such beautiful way. And I think we all are on the good part. When I'm talking we all, I'm meaning the people of this planet to go in the right direction, because the things of the service to self part, as I'm perceiving it, they're breaking apart in pieces step by step, and they're just holding on their last straw which they have, and the people are realizing that there's a other future as of fear and war, and I think that is a good thing. That's what I want to add. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think Quo has many times likened it to a dying dragon thrashing its tail, and it still can do a lot of damage on its way out, but I think they know that they are on their way out, and we can love them, and we can embrace them as our shadow self, as both of you have said many times. Yasi, anything to add?
I just want to say that don't forget you are a very essential thread in a beautiful and complex tapestry. And so you matter, you're connected, you, along with everyone else, create this, beautiful picture. So thank you, Jonathan, for this subject and just for the work that you do, and just what a wonderful thing you've done to bring all of these ideas together and create such a wonderful platform for conversation.
It's been an honor and a joy and a privilege. Thank you guys for being here. It's been a wonderful discussion. You are the best panel we've had yet on these podcasts. And even though I say that to every panel,
You
I
do.
really mean it this time. You guys are the best. Well, let's see how you do on our pop quiz. Pop quiz, of course, is something we like to do to end our time together on a fun note and maybe look for law of one connections to pop culture, or in today's case, culture in general and philosophy in particular. Since today's episode was about spiritual democracy, we are going to have a pop quiz on ancient Greece, widely regarded to be the cradle of Western democracies on planet Earth. And specifically, we are going to look at ancient Greek philosophers, some of whom have actually been mentioned in channeling transcripts over the years. Do you guys know anything about Greek philosophers? Yasi, Daniel?
A little.
A little.
Quite a
Daniel?
while back in school, yes.
Yeah, a long time ago.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this might be easy for you, and we'll see. Viewer, let's see how well you know
I
your
doubt it.
ancient
I doubt
Greek
it.
philosopher. Well, I'll ask you 3 questions about ancient Greek philosophers, see how many you can answer correctly. Panelists, go ahead, say your answers out loud. You who are watching this on video or listening, go ahead, say your answers out loud. We can hear you through time space. As always, the points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. If you learned something interesting about philosophy or pop culture, no doubt you're a winner. Let's try your first question. Your first question is this. Which ancient Greek philosopher wrote the allegory of the cave from which the Matrix movie trilogy was derived? Was it A, Plato, B, Aristotle, or C, Socrates? What do you think, panelists?
Plato.
I have to guess. I think C, Socrates.
Sounds good.
Definitely Plato.
Sounds good. I guess depending on your perspective, you could say A or C, but Plato was the one who wrote The Republic, which included the allegory of the cave, which for folks who are not familiar with this is going to sound a lot like the Matrix. Plato was saying, perhaps through Socrates, that, people, our reality is kind of like people who are chained in a cave, and all they can see is what's in front of them on the wall, and all they see are shadows that are created by these objects that are behind them and can't be seen, that are moved by other individuals. So just the idea that reality is a lot different than you think. And if someone was able to escape the cave and get up into daylight, their eyes would be blinded and they would be totally disoriented. And if they tried to go back into the cave and describe to the other people there what they saw, they would think that person was crazy, which of course, that's basically the storyline for The Matrix. And I believe the Wachowski sisters did say, yes, they were very much influenced by the allegory of the cave and making the story of The Matrix.
I never knew that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I never knew that was supposed to be like Plato's allegory of the cave. That's awesome.
Yeah, if you think about it, that is pretty
Yeah.
much it. Everything that we consider reality is kind of like the shadows on the wall, and there's much more to it than we think.
Interesting. Mm.
Yeah. Well, you learned one good one. Let's try another one. How about this? Which ancient Greek philosopher was Don the Questioner referencing here on June 17th, 1982, where Latouille said, each entity seeks the self through many means, And though there shall be many accompanying phenomena, many of which shall be most disturbing to those who still reside within the darkness and the ignorance of their self and their being, yet for those who truly seek the self, the truth of the Creator, so shall these, the gems of your being, be revealed to you. Questioner. Oh, no, this could not have been Don. This was, 1982, Latwii. You know what? I should go back and look at that, because now all of a sudden I'm remembering, wait, was this like somebody else who was Don? Whoever the questioner was said, so this is what blank was talking about when he said, know thyself. Latwii said, I am Latwii. Yes, may we answer you further. So which ancient philosopher was the questioner referencing here? Was it A,
Socrates.
Plato, B, Aristotle, or C, Socrates?
Socrates.
Seems you know, what?
Or she's trying to mess you up. I wouldn't. Yeah. She is secretly service to self.
No, I trust her. I have very much confidence in her with also safety.
Nice. Indeed. Yeah, for folks who didn't know this, Socrates was Plato's teacher, basically. And Plato was Aristotle's teacher. And yes, it was Socrates who said the unexamined life is not worth living. And that, yes, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. Very law of one-ish, I would say, for sure. If we are all the true creator, the one infinite creator, then knowing yourself for certain is the beginning of wisdom.
Totally.
Are you ready for your last question? One more. Which ancient Greek philosopher was Quo referencing below? And I hope it was Quo. I'm going to be embarrassed as shit. But it was 2007, so I'm pretty sure it was Quo. The one known as blank said, you cannot step in the same river twice. And we say to you that you cannot step in the same action or thought twice. It happens and you move on. It is gone forever. Which ancient Greek philosopher was Quo referencing? Was it A, Thales, B, Parmenides, or C, Heraclitus? No Socrates on this one.
I only knew the easy ones. I actually love this saying so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess C. Guessing.
Good guess.
Guessing.
I'm for B,
Nice.
I guess, as well.
Nice. Well done. The correct answer is either A or C. I believe in that passage, Thales was the one that went in the blank, but it was, in fact, Heraclitus, who was well known for saying you cannot step into the same river twice. Heraclitus and Parmenides were both what we call pre-Socratic philosophers. They were all like before Socrates' time. And Heraclitus was basically of the understanding that everything in nature is always changing. So you never step into the same river twice because it's a different river. Whereas Parmenides was more of the opposite, that reality is eternal and unchanging. So they had kind of different views on it. Both of which I suppose you could say are true in their own way.
Yeah, that's true.
And there you have it, my friend. There is your lesson in Greek philosophy. Did you guys learn anything new? Anything worthwhile here?
So many things. Thanks, Jonathan. That was fun.
I want to thank you both for being here. Thank you for all you do and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. For you who are watching this on video at some time in the near or distant future, thank you for all you do and have done in service to others. We are sending you our love light and we're receiving yours. Until next time, in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai, namaste. Say goodbye, panelists.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys. Thanks, Jonathan.